Hey guys, welcome back. My name is Miss Danielson, and today I'm taking you through a lesson on cube numbers. I hope you joined us for our previous lesson on square numbers and square roots, because those lessons will help you to understand this one. So I'm linking them down in the description box below. Feel free to check those out and come back when you're ready. Let's get started. Cube numbers are the result of multiplying a value by itself 3 times. As you can see, we show that by putting a little 3 up at the top. That little number up at the top is called a power or an index or an exponent. So if we say 3 cubed, it's the same thing as 3 with a power of 3, or 3 with an index of 3, or 3 with an exponent of 3. So what I want you to do is work out these cube numbers from 1 cubed up to 9 cubed. Now I wouldn't ask you to memorize them, but if you have a really good memory, it might come in handy. I'll be honest with you, I know my cube numbers up to about 5, and for the other ones I generally go through my mental calculations to work them out. So don't worry about memorizing them, just take your time and multiply them out now. Go ahead and hit pause and hit play when you're ready. Okay, I hope you've hit pause. Here they come. Those ones I know. Here's where I get iffy too. Now I bet you wish I gave you one more to work out, because that one everyone can work out. Where's 10 cubed? That's an easy one. In fact, 10 with any power is fairly easy to work out. We call these our base 10 numbers because the bottom number is 10. 10 as a base with an index of 1 means just 10. We don't need to multiply it by another 10, we just want one 10. Whereas 10 to the power of 2, or 10 squared, is 10 times 10. That is 2 tens being multiplied together. 10 to the power of 3, we call this one 10 cubed, and clearly it's 3 tens being multiplied together, and so on. We can easily multiply by tens because all that does is shift the place value up 1. 10 to the power of 1 is just 10. 10 to the power of 2 is 100. 10 to the power of 3 is 1,000, and 10 to the power of 4 is 10,000. Notice something interesting that makes this really easy. The power always matches the number of zeros. But this is only when you have 10 as your base value. Now, if you know your positive cube numbers, that's going to be really helpful. But I'm more interested in you understanding how to work them out. So looking at these negative values that are being cubed, think about the signs, and I hope you're familiar with your integer multiplication. Negative times negative will be positive. So if we're cubing a negative number, we're doing a negative times a negative, which makes positive, but then we're multiplying that by another negative number. What do we get when we multiply a positive number by a negative number? We get a negative, right? So that just goes to prove that when we cube any negative value, our answer will also be negative. Keep that in mind when you're working these ones out. Go ahead and hit pause, work out the cubes of these negative numbers, and hit play when you're ready to check your answers. Don't jump ahead, you need the practice. I hope you had a chance to hit pause and work out your own answers. Here they are. Notice that all of these answers are simply the negative of 1 cubed, 2 cubed, and 3 cubed. On to the next row and the last row. So those should have been fairly easy, but I bet you want to do negative 10 cubed, don't you? Of course we do, it's easy. We know the sign is negative, and we really do know our base 10 values. 10 times 10 times 10 is 1,000, so it's negative 1,000. Hopefully that's been fairly simple and straightforward so far. Please don't waste your brain energy on memorizing. Just make sure you know how to do your multiplications and you understand what cubing means, because that means no matter how big or how small or how difficult the number is, you'll be able to cube it. Looking at cubing decimal values, for example, I really need you to take special care with the decimal point. Now that we know what 3 cubed is, it's 27. I don't want you to think that 0.3 cubed is going to be 0.27. That's why whenever we're working with decimal values, I like to turn the decimal value into a fraction before I do the calculation. So 0.3 is the same thing as 3/10. That's a 3 in the tenths position. So 0.3 times 0.3 times 0.3 is actually 3/10 times 3/10 times 3/10. I prefer it this way because that way I can just work with whole number values. I multiply my whole number numerators together, 3 times 3 times 3, and then I multiply my whole number denominators together. That's 10 times 10 times 10. And those are both fairly easy for me to do. I know that 3 cubed is 27, and I know that 10 cubed is 1,000. So this is 27 over 1,000. 27 divided by 1,000 is going to move my place values down 3 places. If you prefer to think of that as moving the decimal that's hiding at the end of the number 1, 2, 3 places over, so I need a 0 in front of the 2. That would be 0.027. Or using place value names, nice and easy, that is 27 thousandths because the 7 is in the thousandths position. I hope that's not a surprise to you. 27 thousandths as a decimal is the same thing as 27 thousandths as a fraction. It is not this number. That's 27 hundredths. So let's not make that mistake, please. Always convert your decimals to fractions before you start trying to cube them, even if you think you can do it easily in your head. Let's go through a few more examples. Or if you feel ready, you can hit pause and try them for yourself, but I'm just going to start. So 0.1 cubed is the same thing as 1/10 cubed, because that 1 is in the tenths position. So writing that as a fraction, I would write 1 over 10 cubed is 1 over 10 times 1 over 10 times 1 over 10. I know 1 times 1 times 1, that's easy. And 10 times 10 times 10 is 1,000. So that's 1 over 1,000. But as my question was written in decimal form, I want to write my answer in decimal form. 1 over 1,000 is the same thing as 1,000th, 0.001. On to question B. That's a 3 in the hundredths position. So I'll do 3/100ths cubed. That is 3 over 100 times 3 over 100 times 3 over 100. I should know 3 times 3 times 3, that's 3 cubed, which is 27. Do we know what 100 times 100 times 100 is? Give you a hint, there's 2 zeros in 100, times another 100 with another 2 zeros, times another 100 with another 2 zeros. So 2 plus 2 plus 2, that's 6 zeros. That's going to be 27 over 1,000,000. 27 millionths. Again, as our question was given as a decimal, our answer should be given in decimal form. So that is 0.000027. Let's double check that place value. That 27 had its decimal moved 6 places because there's 6 zeros in 1,000,000. It was here. I've moved it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 places. Right, on to 2 in the tenths position. That's 2/10. So I'll write that as 2 over 10 cubed. 2 over 10 times 2 over 10 times 2 over 10. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8, and 10 times 10 times 10 is 1,000. So this is 8 thousandths, or as a decimal, that is 8 in the thousandths position, 0.008. If I had simplified that fraction, that would have been the same thing as 1 over 5. And I could have done 1 over 5 times 1 over 5 times 1 over 5. It's a little bit trickier though, although 1 times 1 times 1 is easy. 5 times 5 times 5 is a bit harder than 10 times 10 times 10. That is 125. So that's 1 over 125. And now I've got my answer as a simplified fraction, but I want it as a decimal. You see how this format of the fraction was easier to convert to a decimal than this one? But maybe I've just shown you something about number sense that you didn't know before. 1 over 125 is the same thing as 0.008. Next one is 0.5 cubed, which is the same thing as 5 in the tenths position, 5 tenths. So this is 5 over 10 times 5 over 10 times 5 over 10. 5 times 5 times 5 we've just done is 125. And 10 times 10 times 10 is 1,000. So that's 125 over 1,000. 125 over 1,000 converts nicely to a decimal though as 125 thousandths. That is 0.125. The 5 end up in the thousandths position. If I had done this as a half cubed, so a half times a half times a half, they're nice small numbers and easy to multiply out. 1 times 1 times 1, so 1 cubed is 1. And 2 times 2 times 2, so 2 cubed is 8. That's the same thing as 1 over 8. Now maybe I'm teaching you something about this fraction that you didn't already know. It's difficult to turn a fraction into a decimal when the denominator is not a base 10 number as it is over here. But you should know that 1/8 is the same thing as 0.125. Last one, 1.5 cubed. Now you might be thinking that this is 1.5 cubed, but that's going to be very difficult to multiply out. So rather than thinking of this as 1.5, I'm going to think that this is the same thing as 3 times 0.5. I've just worked out what 0.5 cubed is, and I know what 3 cubed is. So 1.5 cubed will be 0.5 cubed times 3 cubed. 0.5 cubed is 0.125, and 3 cubed is 27. So I just have to do that long multiplication now to work that out. It's always best to set out your long multiplication so that the value with the fewer digits is on the bottom. So I'll put 0.125 on the top, and then I'll put times 27 on the bottom. Next, I'm going to do 2 rows of working. One of those rows is where I multiply the 7 through, and the following is where I multiply the 2, which is in the tens position, so 20 times 0.125 on the top. So starting with the 7, I'll do 7 times 5 is 35. So I put the 5, and I'm remembering the 3. Then I did 7 times 2, which is 14, plus the 3 I'm remembering makes that 17. Put the 7 and remember that 1. And then I do 7 times 1, which is 7, plus that 1, so that makes 8. Next, I need to put a placeholding 0 here because I'm not doing 2 times 0.125, I'm doing 20 times 0.125. So placeholding 0, and then I do 2 times 5 is 10, so I've put a 0, and I remember the 1. Then I do 2 times 2 is 4, plus that 1 I'm remembering makes that 5. Then I do 2 times 1, which is 2, and 2 times 0, well, that would be 0. Now let's add this up. 5 plus 0 is 5, 7 plus 0 is 7, 8 plus 5 is 13, so put the 3 and remember the 1, plus the 2 is 3. So I've got 3, 3, 7, 5 here. And I've already placed my decimal. Why did I place my decimal there? Look at the numbers I was multiplying out. There are 1, 2, 3 digits after the decimal point in the first number, and no numbers after the decimal point in the second number. So all together in this multiplication, there are 3 digits after the decimal point in the question. So there are 3 digits after the decimal point in the answer. So my answer is 3.375. Time for you to get your practice in now. So remember, no calculators, and if you don't know the cube number, you're going to need to do the multiplication to work it out. Go ahead, copy those questions down, hit pause, work them through, and hit play when you're ready to go over your answers. I hope you had a chance to hit pause. Here come your answers. For the first row, first we're going to multiply these values out. Notice with this one that I don't have brackets around the -7, so it's just negative and then 7 cubed. Negative 7 times 7 times 7. But here I do have brackets around the negative 0.7, so that's negative 0.7 in brackets times negative 0.7 in brackets times negative 0.7 in brackets. Those brackets made sure that that negative got multiplied into it. This is going to be the same for all of them. This is 343, and this is negative 343. And this was 7 times 7 times 7, but these are all tenths. So divide by 10, divide by 10, divide by 10 gave us 343 thousandths. Next row, again, we've got a lot of 4s here. So here I'm going to do 4 cubed, or here I'm going to do 4 hundredths cubed, and here I'm going to do negative 4 hundredths cubed. 4 cubed is 64, so this is going to be 64 over a million, and this will be negative 64 over a million. So that's 64 in the millions place value. Check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's the millions place value. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's negative 64 millions. Next row, we've switched it up a bit. 0.3 cubed, that's 3 tenths cubed. Negative 0.4 cubed, that's negative 4 tenths cubed. And 1.2 cubed, you could have thought of that as 3 cubed times 0.4 cubed, or 4 cubed times 0.3 cubed. 64 times 0.027. 15 cubed, 300 cubed, and 20 cubed. These are quite big cube numbers, so maybe we can try the trick that we did for I. 15 is the same thing as 3 times 5. 300 is the same thing as 3 times 100 those by doing, and 20 is the same thing as 2 times 10. 3 cubed times 100 cubes, and 2 cubed times 10 cubed. Okay, so how'd you do? Please let me know down in the comment section down below, but I hope you found this lesson helpful. If you're finding this still quite confusing and you missed out on our square numbers and square rooting lessons, please check those out. So have a look at the description box below, check those out, and maybe come back and have another go. Until next time, keep practicing, and I will see you soon with a lesson on cube rooting. So I hope to see you there.